basically at Southern Connecticut State University, and even before then when I was getting into college, I just was planning on working in radio for the rest of my life. And then after I got out of college and got my internship at NPR, which is where I currently work, part-time at least, the housing bubble hit, and that combined with the fact that internet is really making moves in terms of delivering a vast amount of the younger generation's text, audio, and video. So I don't think radio and television are going to die out as mediums completely. But obviously, the younger generation, they're on the internet a lot more than they actually are on the radio or on the television, because everything that they could ever want, their needs are satisfied on the internet for the most part. And, I thought I was going to work in radio as like a journalist. I was taking journalism classes. I was the general manager of the radio station for 2 years at Southern Connecticut State University. I kind of got my internship at WNPR in Hartford with a journalism position in mind, hoping for that. But around that time, the station had gone from being all classical to all talk. Really made a fast transition. And of course, they were repeating a lot of program on the weekends, and I was just like, this is interesting. So you guys need shows. What about a music show? And I just, with suggestions and some help and some advice from somebody who was working at that station at the time, George Goodrich. He no longer works there, but he did work there at the time. I put together some demos for a music show and gave them to the general manager, and he liked them. And that show kind of developed into a podcast. And John Dankosky, the news director at the station, said to me I should start a blog to put the podcasts on. I did that, and it eventually grew into a half an hour show. Then it turned into a full hour show, and then from there I kind of went into the music blogosphere. I got a few comments on my blog exposing me to other blogs, and of course the blogs that they followed too. And I kind of got a grip of just how vast the music blogosphere actually is, and I was pretty floored by it at the time. And at the time I wasn't like I know a lot of people did, but I didn't really grow up as being like a Pitchfork reader or like a Rolling Stone reader or anything like that. In college, all the music I needed exposure to was pretty much like at the radio station. We were getting tons of promos at the radio station. And, and not only that, but there were tons of people around at the radio station who were heavily into music. So I was getting exposed to a lot of old school metal. I was getting exposed to Tom Waits, who became one of my favorite, artists at the time. I was getting exposed to a lot of Indian stuff, of course, like, Neutral Milk Hotel and Of Montreal. And it was just like this really nice word of mouth place, to hear about these new artists, just at the radio station WSIN on Southern Connecticut State University's campus. So I didn't really need to read anything or seek music out or go out of my way to hear about new music after I was at the radio station, because it was just all over the place. There was just a plethora of new music. So when I learned about the blogosphere and I was kind of getting a grip, or when I first ran into the blogosphere, I didn't really know how it worked. I didn't know that Rolling Stone and Stereo Gum and Pitchfork and and a couple other blogs, have so much of a say or just so much power over, what's covered and what gets hyped or anything like that. I didn't know how any of that crap worked. And, this is kind of like a first exposure for me. It was like, I think for the first year or two, I was really still trying to understand how it worked, how it functioned. And after a while, I don't know if it was just because blogging or radio isn't truly my calling or whatever, but I was just getting fed up with the fact that, I wasn't really gaining much of an audience or anything. And I think partially it has to do with, maybe my medium isn't 100% radio, maybe it's not 100% writing. I think it also has to do with the fact that so many people are just blogging. So many people are just typing, and I was just one more person who was typing, who the hell am I? And the other half of it is that the generation, the group of people who I want to reach, they're not listening to the radio all that much, unfortunately. Not only that, but stations or NPR stations, I think are less willing to pay for or take a gamble on a program like mine because it's experimental. It's outside of what, is usually covered. I'm playing like really obscure, nobody knows who the hell these bands are, bands on the air. And because of that, people can't come into my show expecting to love every single thing that they hear. The point of the show is exposure. The point of the show is variety. The point is you're going to try 7 different things. You might not like all 7 of them, but you might love 2 of them, And a lot of people, especially in radio, don't have a ton of patience for that. But the thing is I do, and that's why I'm interested in that kind of thing. I was kind of making a radio show for me. I was making the kind of radio show that I wanted to hear. It wasn't until a couple years in that I realized, I really need to go where the people are. And not only that, but I need to kind of figure out what people really want. I need to make something that people are interested in. I can't just make a radio show that I'm interested in because I'm not going to live off of that. I'm going to starve to death. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, and I'm not going to have groceries every week. So I just decided to separate myself from every other blogger out there, and I said, well, I'm on YouTube all the time. YouTube's one of my favorite websites. What if I just make a video every once in a while where I'm talking about a band or something that I'm reviewing on the website, and maybe, separate myself from everybody else because people will see the guy who's blogging on this site. They'll say, oh, that's that guy, they'll remember me. They'll see me and they'll relate. They'll see me and they'll, whether they love me or hate me, they'll at least have a memory of who that guy is. People tend to remember faces and conversations and personalities, and I figure at least that would happen, because it's not like I had a fancy layout or anything like that, or, a cool logo. I still don't have a cool logo. Or yes, I do. It's kind of cool. It's cool. But I want to get a new logo. Anyway. So basically, I kind of, started off that whole video thing out of frustration that I wasn't getting that much traffic. I wasn't getting that much interest. And good thing I did, because, it wasn't too shortly after I started that my music blog actually got taken down by Blogger. Because they were really doing a number on MP3 blogs, because, they didn't want MP3s being passed around on Blogger, and my blog got shut down like a lot of others did. And but still, at that time when my blog got shut down, I had a cool couple thousand, YouTube subscribers, so I definitely had some kind of community going. I was reviewing music regularly. I remember at first my reviews were more like sketches, but they kind of developed into track reviews, and then eventually developed into, an album review every once in a while. And then once I got the green screen, it was like album reviews almost every other day, because any album cover or album I could, want to review, I would just superimpose it next to me. And that's that. Because the thing is, if I reviewed an album before the green screen, I kind of wanted to have a physical copy next to me. Even if a PR person sent me a promo and it was a digital promo, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? It's like, am I just supposed to get on camera and just say it's that album and blah, 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 blah. It's like, I want people to see a picture of it, And then, I thought just superimposing it on the screen is dumb. What if I go behind it? That looks dumb. Green screen. Figured out how to use a green screen. And, It just sort of worked. How did I get from, kind of just being 100 subscribers to almost 40,000? Just like just being consistent, interacting with the people who watch my show, just listening to them and trying my best to, make myself happy by covering the kind of music that I want to cover, but also kind of giving the people who watch me what they want. I kind of do a half and half thing now. I'll review something you want, and then after that, I'll review something I want. I'll review something you want, then something I want. But much of the time, it's like something we both want, because a lot of the stuff that people want me to cover is something that I want to cover too, and that's that.